bit, become a good habit to try at the end to provide us with some overview about what has been happening. As you know, everything has been reported and even recorded and even rightly put on the web, but the recording also helps in later on writing up the conclusions of the conference. And since this is a continuous process with input of interaction, I mean, each network meeting is a very important moment in bringing the network a little bit further. How much further depends on each session. I think we've had a number of very inspiring meetings, and we will translate that again in forms of action. And in order to be able to do that, I think it's for us necessary to get a brief overview and therefore the summary reports, but also for the people still present here, it gives you a little bit an overview of what had been going on. So what we usually do is that we ask the people responsible for the various working groups to come up here and provide us with a brief presentation on conclusions or other events that have been going on within the working groups that belong to their domain. So we start with that. Secondly, we would like to briefly present or give Brian not only the opportunity to become the man in front of the screen instead of behind it, but also because we have deliberately invested so much in the past in designing our website, also because that is an important tool for European Commission in the evaluation of dissemination activities. So that's why we have invested a lot of time and energy as a group in developing that. And I must say I'm very impressed, but then again I'm not too handy at it myself, so I'm easily impressed in these kind of things. But apart from that, I think he's doing a great job, and I would like you, we've decided that he will do a brief presentation to show you on future possibilities of what we have already been building on how it could be used by the network. I'm not saying it could be, we're going to use it right that way, but just to show you some of the potential. I mean, as I said, this is still an enterprise growing, developing, and every now and then you have to show in the stages of development in all its, sometimes it's incompleteness or even its fuzziness, but still, I think it helps if you try to make visible the different components of what we're trying to do in the stages of development in which they are, and the website is an important element of it. So that will be brief, but separate presentation. And then we have the usual closing sessions, I was going to say, but before that, of course, we have the session of the advisory board. We have an independent advisory board as a part of the quality control. We installed it as a network last year with an assignment. Their task is to evaluate, and as far as I'm concerned, really independently as far as you can do that, at the end of the 3 years, because this is a 3-year project, so they will have to produce a report, an evaluation report, independently next to our own reports for the European Commission. And as they announced last year, in 2 steps or 3 steps, they will develop their framework. And I would like to ask, I'll give the opportunity, I think it will be used, to the chairman of the advisory board, Torodd Strand, to have a few observations. And then there's always the question, where are we going next year? To a place less hot, some people said. But I mean, that's already what we try to accommodate this kind of time, because we were last year in Spain, but you overdid it, my name. Wonderful. So we come back to that at the end of it all. So let us start by the reports from the different working groups. I may ask Theo to say some few remarks on what has been going on in the area of the accreditation activities, both the plenary sessions, and share with us some conclusions that this very, very active group, who is getting increasingly powerful all over Europe, I was going to say. So their strategy is also succeeding, what they have cooked up for the time to come.
Okay, thank you. A couple of things I would like to report. First of all, is I would bring to you the great thanks of the EAPA, as you allow us again to be part of your conference.
Very happy.
Facilities you managed to get here. Thanks very much for that. This year was not a very busy year in terms of accreditation. We had only one accreditation on the way, and can proudly announce that we have a third program now accredited with the School of Government. A post-experience master program is now accredited by EAPA, and we like it very much. Second thing is that the membership of EAPA as such is stabilized. We have now 24 members, and it is very difficult to get more members. So next year we will have a marketing plan to enlarge the number of participants to a greater extent. And also we had our first resignation, which was pitiful, I think. Aberdeen, Bologna University decided that it was impossible to have the EAPA accreditation alongside the national accreditation, and they thought it was impossible to combine those. And so cost-benefit analysis of that led to their resignation. Third is that we are still in the process trying to get EAPA recognized by the Deutsche Accreditierungsrat, which is a kind of meta evaluation organization, and if we can be accredited by them, it is possible for us to accredit German programs, which is a legal accreditation in the terms of the German accreditation system. But that's a slow and complex process, because you have all kinds of demands for the organization. They think about the rich and fully staffed organizations, but we have to find ways around this. Of course, during this conference, the accreditation committee convened, and I explained what you did about the accreditation. Today, the general meeting of EAPA was held, and we decided, advised by the accreditation committee, to have a separate form of accreditation for new programs. So from now on, it will be possible for a program which is new to be what we, for the time being, have termed peer approved, which means that kind of temporary accreditation until they can get a full accreditation, because then they need at least 2 cohorts of alumni. But because a lot of new programs want to know if they are on the just track towards accreditation, and because in some countries the state demands an accreditation before the start of next other accreditation, we thought we should make this possible. And the last thing I would like to share is that next year we will have a very busy year, because the Dutch public administration programs decided to have a joint accreditation, joint the national accreditation and an accreditation by EAPA. So at least 4 and maybe 7 programs will be accredited in the Netherlands next year, or will be reviewed if they are accredited. That's about behave, how they have behaved. And also the National Academy in Ukraine and IDEA in Lausanne want to be accredited next year.
Okay, well, any questions? Okay, thank you very much. And I guess we need a lot of experts in all these commissions. So we can be lobbying the place afterwards. People. Second work group that we usually talk about is East-West, which is normally shared by Bernadette, but she couldn't make it this time to here. So I asked Roy to talk a little bit about his workshop that was being organized as part of it, and what the conclusions came out of that, this project.
So there was an initial small organizational change, but with Carlos Toonen we decided to put the two groups into one because we saw that.
I was with Carlos as well. So that's why we come up.
Yes, because we discussed and we realized that there are basically many common points between the two projects. But anyway, I will talk about mine and he will talk about this one. So first a few words about the proposal, the project, then a few words about the responses collected in the session, and finally a few words about the future, what to do. So regarding the project, the process of the proposed exercise, the project is very similar to what happened with the previous inventory analysis project. A sample of countries are selected, and country contributors in each country compile information on public administration education programs, detailed program information including course lists and everything, working according to a strict terms of reference, strict methodology. The questions asked are twofold. What is the general disciplinary composition or disciplinary orientation of public administration education programs in the different countries? Are there patterns of cross-country patterns, groups of countries that can be identified with statistical methods like cluster analysis? This was done presented last year in Canada. The second question regards the degree to which programs in different countries are open towards European or global or comparative or multi-national issues. So these are the two broad directions which are surveyed using quantitative multivariate statistical techniques. The outcomes which are expected from this project are basically twofold. One is to give a landscape of public administration education across Europe, and if it's extended, the methodology is extended to the Mediterranean region, which is part of the Carlos project, then concerning a wider geographical region. This landscape involves both cross-sectional, so static view, and a dynamic, possibly a dynamic view, because there might be some basis of comparing new results with previous results. So longitudinal dynamic processes can be also possibly identified. And the other more practical outcome can be that detailed program and country level information, including these measures of disciplinary orientation and global European orientation, but including also other program information, including, for example, detailed course lists, can be accessed by the interested practitioners in the education field, like program developers and so on. So this might be interesting, I think, for both academics and program designers. The second issue, the response received for all this. There were some discussions which regarded mainly the problem of how to identify, how to differentiate public administration programs from other types of programs, because in many countries you don't have this, you don't have programs called public administration. So this is of course a question which was posed already in the issue paper or in the proposal, and for which I proposed two or three kinds of approaches. So these were discussed in depth, and the possibilities of introducing a kind of a US bias or which can distort European funding policies, especially in the case of the Mediterranean region. This danger was relatively extensively discussed, but on the other hand, the general impression of mine was that there is an interest and support for this project. I started to circulate a sheet of paper, but unfortunately I started it only when already 5 of the members of the group left the room. Anyway, there were about 9 interested and possibly active participants from 4 or 5 countries, and I am sure that there will be some additional ones. But this points already to the third issue, the future of this project. Basically the tasks are twofold in this regard. One is further refinement of the methodology of what exactly to do, for what audience, for what clients if you want, for what purposes and using what methods. So an additional work which is more theoretical work is required in this regard, paper and pencil work. And another issue is attracting additional people into this group, because especially from the large countries like Germany, UK and France, the interest is smaller than from the smaller medium-sized countries. But these large countries will be essential to get involved into this study, because they represent the fundamental administrative traditions or approaches to public administration in Europe. So if anybody, either from the smaller countries, but especially from the larger ones, are interested in the project, please email me. My name is, and the email address is on the participant list. You can find it there by now. I'm getting through the public administration. And anyway, anybody is interested in the project, and he or she is of course welcome.
Any questions? Yeah.
Yes.
What are the broad trends? I mean, is it going to public administration losing market share and some of those things?
So I couldn't hear it.
What's the broad pattern that you're getting?
What were the results of the previous study?
Well, in broad terms, yeah.
Well, there were basically 3 distinct clusters or groups of countries identified. One cluster is centered strongly around business management approaches. The other, this is especially characteristic for some Nordic countries, and probably the UK as well, but UK was unfortunately omitted from the study because no sufficient data was available. The second characteristic group was based on a political science and broadly a social science approach to public administration. So these types of courses dominated the program curricula. And the third, this is, I would call it the typical continental European approach. And the third approach is characterized by a strong emphasis on legal subjects, legal types of subjects in the program curriculum. This is characteristic for most Mediterranean countries and a number of most former communist countries. Unfortunately, again, Germany was not included, so there is no data on Germany, neither Austria. With regard to the degree of Europeanization or internationalization, the outcome of this study was that there is a surprisingly low proportion of comparative or European or this kind of global subjects in the program curricula, which vary between maybe 0.5 and 30% among the different countries, but usually in the lower range of this.
If I understood correctly, you were asking also about, do we know anything about market shares? Wasn't that what you were?
Yeah, that's basically.
And that's of course an interesting question. Well, we said, but then you got to answer what was the last study, the exploratory study first, on the basis of which we're now trying to design a more extensive database. But the interesting question is, okay, this is a typology of programs on the supply side of it, but does it help tell us something about developments in terms of students, in terms of market shares, in terms of shifting balances, either between public administration and other disciplines, or within the three mainstream types of public administration that you have identified? And those are the type of questions, they were not in the earlier study, but it's, I would now.
There were some discussions even in the journal paper about the trends. Of course, using a cross-sectional data, you cannot analyze trends, but you have other qualitative analyses of the field of public administration in Europe published by authoritative writers. And based on this, you can say something about trends. And I think it was able to say something about trends even last year. So that, for example, the legal approach is, the geographical scope of the legal approach is decreasing. For example, Spain is already not so much in the legal, but in the continental European part or cluster. But most central Europe, like Poland, Hungary, Romania, are still very strongly characterized by law. So there can be, of course, something said about very cautious manner about trends. But a main point in this new, the continuation of this proposal is exactly this, because now this time the size of the projects will be also involved in the study. Enrollment statistics to be collected, and this is done this time, and it can be compared to some extent previous to that. But if this is maybe done in some way, not possibly regularly, you can publish data on the internet. Institutions can, maybe fill data themselves into the database. So if this maybe in the future, at some future point, becomes a regular exercise, then it's definitely possible to analyze the dynamic processes, to analyze a market share, for example, of public administration programs vis-à-vis other types of academic programs.
I get this question. These are proposals that need to be tested, of course, for problems. Supported, but this is an important question, I think, what refers to the type of questions that people would have. This is interesting. Thanks. Well, yeah, that's it. If that's the case, we're really not moving away anyway now. I don't think there is. Thank you very much. Carlos, you have, with you a little bit further down south, suddenly the east-west, but I never was allowed to say that by Tony, but north-south is getting a new meaning with you.
Yes, EPAN has imperial ambitions.
Yes, okay, so we would like you to explore that. Yes.
Well, in fact, the idea of this discussion was to react to the suggestion of the European Commission in the sense that in the future the thematic networks have to open their activities to third countries. So far they have been working on cooperation inside Europe, but there is a potential of academic cooperation with other parts of the world. So in fact the European Commission is suggesting the networks to make use of this experience and take advantage of the possibilities of cooperation offered by the Commission to establish systematic forms of cooperation with other continents. So there are specific programs with the United States, with Canada, with Japan, etc. And there is a different logic in the relation with other developed parts of the world. But then there is an extremely important issue, which is the North-South relations and the relation with developing countries and the academic cooperation with developing countries. So the experience of the thematic networks fits very well with this idea of building capacities in the countries and to put it in relation with the cooperation for development. So this is the general idea of the discussion, how to strengthen these links. We have been extremely happy, lucky in this meeting, because we have the opportunity to discuss with experts from the United Nations on capacity building. So I think the discussion was really deep and very interesting in this respect. And also I'm very happy, it demonstrates also the interest of these meetings, because I could have contact with the University of The Hague and the University of Umea, that they are interested in establishing links with North African universities. So probably we will explore the opportunities to establish some kind of exchange between the university in which I'm working now in Morocco and their universities. Well, it was the general discussion, but then I submitted to the working group a pilot project that I'm interested in developing in relation to the Euro-Mediterranean area and the academic consequences of this implementation of the association agreements between the European Union and the Mediterranean partners. So, taking advantage of the fact that the campus program has been extended to the Mediterranean area last year, in 2002 for the first time, my idea was to prepare to discuss the opportunity of applying for a campus program in order to some extent, make at the Mediterranean level what the thematic network has made so far in the European context. So that was why we joined the discussion with the East-West group, because of course this experience of cooperation between East and West is extremely valuable to be applied to the North-South dimension. So we discussed on the content of this potential campus program. There were some criticism in the sense that the context of these countries is quite different, so to establish a very broad network maybe is not very realistic in the sense that making a whole description of public administration and maybe political science programs, because they are very linked, will be difficult, but anyway, we explore a little bit these opportunities. We have to think again in how to define this campus program. Some very interesting suggestions were made in the sense that maybe a global description of public administration programs, it would be probably better to target some specific issue and to measure how these countries are prepared for some specific issue, and in particular, for instance, the MEDA program, this instrument of financial help of the European Union to the Mediterranean partners, so to explore what are the needs that the management of this program has in terms of administrative capacities, administrative skills in the public administrator, but also how it has to influence the development of the programs in the universities of these countries. So that's the general discussion. So we decided that there were 3 or 4 people interested in continuing the program from Switzerland and from the United Nations office. So we will continue discussing on this, and we will try to apply for the next call for proposals of campus in next December, which also is something very strongly supported by the Commission, the idea of through the networks, thematic networks, to make use of other programs. So we have the experience of Leonardo, so why not also into this?
Thank you very much. Questions, observations? It's going quickly. Using learning experience of these
also that we're going to have again. Yeah, we're going to have meetings in Cyprus, in Marrakesh, in
Okay. You're building your own cruise ship now. Thank you. Well, but I think it's important. By the way, in general, we need to explore this development about this opening up of this thematic network and European funding to build links to regions outside Europe proper. I guess also with respect to links to the US, things that could not be accommodated in the past can be in the future probably, and that opens, particularly for a field like this, whole new opportunities. But I think this is an important step if we can manage it. So thank you for taking another initiative. Yes?
That is about, I think, quite that how far this activity is connected with Europaid, the Commission, because I don't know myself to what extent Europaid is supporting. I mean, they obviously have programs in Madrid, but to the extent that they do, when they are a public administration reform, it would seem to me to be important to link up with that, because I observed a lot how European Commission programs, and then the local we have the European Institute of Reconstruction, that they employ, that their pattern is to employ private consultants, private companies, who come in and do a standard package, something that they've already done in another country, and they bring it in and they get paid lots of money. But actually, most of the money goes to private consultants. Sometimes distinguished academics work with these private companies as well. But it's important that the kind of deeper understanding, thinking about things like education and training is concerned, of a network like this, which is sometimes, I think, rather quixotic, you know, with the danger of being well-meaning, but which is very good, of course. It's probably why I'm here. But at the same time, you know, there is a much more sort of commercial approach going on, and it might be good to link the two because sometimes there's a shortage of time.
Might be the case.
I don't know how to do it. I can't think of a
Precisely. So far, usually these kind of projects are being done on the basis of tendering. Of course, there's a group here who would like to join up. I mean, I'll be the first one to support and advise them not necessarily to participate. That could be done. As a network, I think we're not yet neither in ambition nor in capacity ready to do that kind of thing. I don't think that the stage in which we are equally able to compete is much more organized stuff. So that is one thing, but we keep an eye to it, and those programs might be changing. I mean, the European Union is changing. We discovered that with teaching, for example. In the past, with the training we pointed out in the past year, with the training of public service for the Commission, used to be granted to specific institutions who got monopolies, and that's opening up.
Yeah.
And in that case, the institutions which are connected to a network like this, on the long run might come in that market. I would not be surprised if the same thing is happening to these kind of links.
Yeah.
The second observation, we think a little bit in terms of aid, but then we mentioned that was the interesting conversation that we just had, and that's why the Technical University of The Hague became interested. What was it? 35 or 40% of their students come from Morocco. So there's also another link there that needs to be explored a little bit more. So it's not only, again, me going out and telling the others, but there is clearly, in this whole trend of globalization, are things going on that will benefit to both sides. And something of an understanding from that side to this side might be helpful. That's also an interesting, I think, part of this kind of initiative. And I'd rather, in this stage of the development of the network, I'd rather concentrate on the development of that kind of quality, so to speak, than to go to the commercial market.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't suggesting that. Keeping in touch with the Commission.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Which was
in that sense,
doing its own,
yes.
frankly, more thematic one.
Yeah.
To show the value.
Well, this gives me the opportunity to say that we visited the Commission last year just to talk about, well, what is the future of these networks, what we're going to do, to say that actually we were thinking about not applying for another female network project of 3 years, but to make it an independent organization. I'll come back to that in a minute. And just like we had in our strategy in the past, we put it in EPAN. And then really they said, well, would you do that? Please do not do that, sir, and reconsider to apply for another 3-year project. Because it fits into our strategy of using these networks for other kinds of activities. So I think that it's hard to see how this is going to look like. That there are some developments going on that is obvious without me knowing precisely what. So, the reflections I have. Yeah. Links with the profession, yes. We had a plenary session that everybody attended, but we're curious about to hear what happened after.
Okay, well, we talked in the working group, and we belong also to the working group, of course, not at the session. We agreed to develop the project, present the project in October, focus it on the local government, concerning with intergovernmental programs developed at that point. But when we were talking about which specific areas were possible to develop concerning to it, we realized that we have different interests depending on the countries. So there are some countries that now are more interested in, for example, in human resources. There are countries that are now more interested in the immigration policy. So it makes to have some difference on the, not on the point, but just in the policy areas actually. So we will be asking the questioner again to give us some information to try to make something that division, which are the main policy interests of the different parts. So as a result, we are thinking to create for this project something like a new structure of the project. So something like to create something what Mr. Sanchez said this morning. A transnational network with sub-networks. So it means to create also inside the working group with the profession, something like a steering committee inside the working group, and to fit some responsibilities depending on the different issues we want to develop to create something like this. So to all coordinated, but depending on the country, depending on the north, south, the east, the west, or whatever, to apply different issues depending on the needs of local governments, because of course they are different of this. So this is more or less the idea we have for this. Of course, we are open to any idea you have on my emails, on the list of people, so please let me know. Of course, the project is open to everybody in the thematic network, so also at the moment no one has been in the working group. Everybody is welcome to this project. The idea is to send me at the end of June. This is what I'm saying right now. Right there. And with some comments from Lithuania, from Poland, or different countries trying to adapt to the different realities, plus some results of the questionnaire. And in September we will have also a meeting just to prepare more deeply all this structure. We are not like Carlos, but the meeting can be maybe in Ireland, maybe in Poland, so it's not secret in case, but well, it's also interesting. So the idea is this, that you send the proposal in October. So everybody is invited to join the project we will be. So that's all.
Okay, thank you. Well, of course, all activities are always open to everybody, but every now and then requires some initiative and leadership to put together some of these things. I'm grateful to see that that is happening in this area, that you're taking over from Carlos, who's now in. That you took various initiatives, so we're supportive of it, and that you take responsibility to try to do that, to develop, I think, an extremely important but complicated dimension of the network, as you've all seen this morning. Are there any solid observations from the floor? Already? Then we'll take it from here, and I guess you will announce where the meeting will be, and then our people can see whether they can participate in the program. Okay, thank you. EPAN, the doctoral network.
Since I don't have the PowerPoint presentation already. So at the EPAN doctoral network basically emerged as a trial of EPAN, I guess, not only to bridge the different regions in Europe and not only Europe, but also to kind of close a little bit the gap between the generations. And the doctoral network is functioning already for a few years now. We had 3 parallel to the conference events already. First one taking place in Bratislava, the next one in Granada, and now this year we had the 3rd one. We had some very interesting presentations. We started one day before the main conference began because we kind of thought that most of the doctoral students also want to be involved and talk to the professors, talk to the various people who experience in the field in various countries. So we decided maybe to have it one day before. And indeed, most of the students also were participants in different working group meetings. So next year, I think we will do it exactly the same way. And we already had outlined the topic for the next year's seminar, and based on our specific needs, we wanted to have a seminar on writing skills and publishing skills. That is, how to write things and how to then afterwards get them really published. So we will ask for your assistance perhaps in finding some speakers who would help us in this seminar for the next year. Besides the seminars and the parallel events, we also have several other initiatives, one being the inventory of doctoral programs. The inventory is designed not so much to make any big, meaningful comparisons and conclusions about the philosophy behind the programs or what should be the role and so on, but rather to establish very direct links, very direct contacts with various programs to see see who are the doctoral students, who are the young researchers that we should attract into our doctoral network. The questionnaire was designed, and you have it in your also conference materials. Laszlo Vas has mentioned it during his presentation yesterday. By now I have 14 responses, but I would also very much appreciate if more of you could either maybe fill it in during now the conference, or maybe email it to me, because all the member institutions had received it in electronic format either in late February or early March. So if you want, I can repeat it, but maybe you still have it in your inboxes. What good already came out of the 14 responses that I had received is a list of 75, if I'm not mistaken, doctoral students. So now we will have actually direct link with people in various educational institutions who we want to include, who we want to attract to our future activities. Besides this inventory, we also decided already to start using the information that we had gathered. And we have a few ideas how we want to do it. First, we want to create sort of a job site that would post mostly information on job openings in the various EPAN member institutions, junior posts obviously, because we, as much as we would like to become professors one day, still we cannot, I think, apply for those positions. So we will try to contact you several times throughout the next year, asking for information if you have openings, if you're interested in having international staff in your faculties, to please send the information to us. The second one is openings for PhD positions and grants and scholarship schemes. That is, the funding, the opportunities for research for young people who want to study for their doctorate, who want to work in your research programs. So we would have all those openings again several times a year, updated, reviewed, and so on. And finally, we want to create sort of a discussion board type of facility where all the doctoral network members could post maybe their profiles, maybe their photographs, I don't know about that, but also their articles and presentations and abstracts of articles that might perhaps were published in journals and so on. So we could see what ideas we have, what problems we're struggling with to discuss, to maybe complain a little, to maybe boast a little, and so on. And these initiatives, they are not just initiatives, they actually have specific names attached to them, and the doctoral network is not only myself. Specific people from the network, from our region, have committed to do some work, and as a team I hope that we will manage to actually implement it all. And finally, today we had a discussion with the representatives of the Netherlands Institute of the Government, I believe this is the correct title. And we actually already then had a more in-depth discussion of what are the problems in various doctoral programs and what can we do to actually maybe solve those problems. And one of the complaints was that in most cases we do not have enough students in one university to maybe pursue very specific areas. And also in other cases we don't have professors who could teach courses in very specific areas. And from country to country, of course, those problems vary, and the way they are solved also varies. And we heard a few good examples, and we discussed them, of how several universities are trying actually to solve those problems. One again being the NIG, trying to internationalize their programs, trying to give opportunity for other people to join in. Another initiative being Finnish initiative, where they have joint courses and they invite Estonian students. Another one, a Nordic initiative that is only picking up. But these are the ideas that we also could actually put on our website, on our database that we're going to be making anyway for the basis of the inventory that we're doing. And that could be as a way to start maybe some more partnerships and perhaps even to develop some joint modules in doctoral studies across various areas or several countries or several regions in Europe. So in a very short presentation, this is what we're doing, this is what we're thinking to be doing next year. And if you have any questions, or maybe if you want to suggest something or to promise help, which is always very welcome, I'm here, and my contacts are in the list and also on the sheet of paper that I have passed around. So thank you for your attention, and any questions if you have any.
Any questions, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great initiative. And I see that you have links with the ECDR, the Joint Center of ECDR.
Last year we had this first summer school, basically.
This is something that I didn't mention.
So it depends a little bit, can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we collaborate with everyone.
Yes, and I was wondering whether you were in touch with other doctoral or postgraduate networks of political studies or...
That is one of the suggestions that we actually received from Rodolfo Lavansky in Italy. He suggested for us to approach, I believe it's Professor Delle Monte, and also, just to distribute also the questionnaire and to start building contacts with political science network, thematic network, I believe that it is. So we have a contact and we will do it. But we have not had any more direct communication until now with the doctoral network with them.
I think the first step is, as always in this case, we initiated last year, actually 2 years ago, to do some activities for people interested, and now we're reaching the stage in which we try to get an overview. I guess that's basically what you're saying in a year. I will suppose that institutions which were here already today, or even from the side from the Institute of Florence, it was indicated that they would be very much interested in collaborating in a more institutional sense. I think it makes sense to first make an inventory of what kind of groups are out there. So if you have any suggestions, I think we'll take it on in a more systematic.
But building on what we learned from the earlier presentation, that what's called public administration varies.
Sure.
Yeah. And by saying that the doctoral students, they are doing different things.
Yeah. So in that sense, it's not limited to that. You see that we have done some things with ECPR on occasions. I mean, the Netherlands School of Government is for jointly political science and public administration, as are several of these other networks. So there's no exclusive to the contrary, I think.
That is why
it makes sense to make an inventory also because of the other disciplines, the more legal ones, and to see what's going on there, if anything. So that's part of this.
This is also why in the inventory we just ask people maybe to give the list of students, not necessarily whether they're law students or whatever, but to also give an indication of what is their research question. And this is basically the focus. If you research and if you're interested in public administration research questions, this is the people that we are trying. And then this is why we're trying to establish then direct links rather than just trying to find schools of public administration or programs of public administration that are very rare. You're right.
Not to mention, I'm sorry I was not able to attend any of the meeting of the PhD network here, but Eva for sure knows that we tried also to find out if there are special needs of young professionals. It was just during the last conference next month in Bucharest, and we also put forward a questionnaire about young professionals, and it was quite a good response from the young people from our network. Up to now, we have maybe 50 or 60 persons who applied to this questionnaire with certain proposals, and we could have some similar questions what you just reported that you are going to do, and the special baseline and PhD inventory program and something like that. So I think that it's like a very similar, and there is a group of young people within EPAN who I assume will take the leadership of this initiative. So I would suggest that you will be in contact with these people and that we can join this initiative.
Yeah, this is already actually done. I spoke with Violeta Zantai and also within the questionnaire and so on, and we agreed that we will share the results of the inventory and so on, and we will see further. So maybe I just did not mention the external links of the doctoral network sufficiently. I just don't want to occupy the whole closing session.
That's part of the strategy that we do this first these explorations and don't immediately think about, because if I hear 3 presentations, each of them are going to send out questionnaires. I mean, we're overloading ourselves now with questionnaires, and you have to be very difficult. But this is also a coordination device, and you're right. That should be linked, of course, and explored where is really something you needed, because we have to be careful. I mean, otherwise you will not get within due course any response at all.
Yeah, but we were the first ones to send it out.
Yeah, but that's why. At that time it could still be done. But because of that, there's a diminishing willingness to keep it up. And also in terms of the other initiatives, in terms of questionnaires, I mean, I'm all in favor of developing a monitor, to call it that way, about what's going on. And that's basically how I see your initiative in the area of public administration and related studies. But it has to be done in a somewhat friendly manner for the ones that have to provide all the information. Otherwise, this will all drive us crazy. with all these questions. So that will be a separate point of attention. But so far, yeah, at the same time, you have to start with exploring what is there, what work is being done, what are the links, and your example illustrates how important it is. But we have to start thinking about being careful with all these requests for information and be efficient in it. That's always in my opinion. Other observations? I think it is an important development, and I think there will be initiatives coming from it. There is a relationship that brings me actually to the one subject that we've not reported on here because there's not, we did not organize a session on it, but it is the summer school, which I would like to mention then, which is an important thing. We have a very important initiative that has been come off the ground last year. We organized it for the first time. It was very successful. We did it jointly with the ECPR, summer school on European governance for basically also PhD students, not so much in the direction of their PhD work, although you can hardly distinguish that, but more in terms of the qualifications, in terms of teaching, professional qualifications, and automatically, of course, we're using that work. And this is a somewhat broader audience, so also young or newcomers, re-entry teachers to people are welcome to those kind of summer schools. It was an extreme success. I think we had 35 to 40 and even more when we had a few political science network students there. We decided for this year that we would go on alone. That was not because it was dissatisfied, but this is flexible. So we have planned together with NISPC, a summer school in Bratislava, which is already now full. Within 2 weeks, 3 weeks actually, in terms of enrollment. So that obviously also is fulfilling a need which is in relation to the doctoral network, but which emphasizes not so much the research side, but also the fact that once you want to have your PhD, you do it for an academic career, but in the future, for the academic career, the professional training, teaching competences will become increasingly important also in terms of the career. So that is what that side of the professionalism in the area is being addressed by those kind of summer schools. We already have a plan that was being announced for those of you who were not here in that session, that next year it will be here in Leuven, which has to do a lot with case study methods, and we changed a little bit the topics, taking the professionalizing topics of the summer school each year, although the overall topic is how to teach Europeanization of public administration in various aspects. If you want to know more about it, the summer school, that's I guess the logical link then to the next step. The web has all the information, it's easy accessible, and I guess this is the moment to ask the webmaster himself to come step forward from behind his camera in front of it. Oh, Joy. Of course, I already went to the. I come back now. Yeah, I did. He's a work group in itself. So.
Well, change the pace. There have been a few interesting developments this year. We've noticed that about 58 of the 80 to 90 participants registered electronically this year for the first time, and the registrations were taken and returned electronically, which is a new step for us. We've also been looking at exactly what we were going to do to further develop the web page, keeping with the goal of dissemination. And the main bottleneck in previous years has been that the information has come to Mette and myself, and we have placed it on the site, which allows us to keep posting information and adding new details, but it means that only 2 people can coordinate the flow or provide the information for the site. So what we've done in the past while is we set up some goals for the EPAN website, and and those were basically to increase its usefulness, give members the ability to add the content, manage their own affairs on the web page, and create an interactive resource for all of the thematic networks, anyone who might want it. There were certain requirements for this. It had to be inexpensive, and we were quite lucky in this respect, as the University of Limerick has provided a roughly €5,000 server that we can use for the foreseeable future. That is hosting the website at the moment and all the facilities. One of the main goals, I've been addressing this for the University of Limerick as well. Several academic departments have made this request. Being academics, we're not particularly inclined to pick up a new career as technicians. It's simply outside the scope of our time and effort. We find ourselves concentrating on our research. So the idea was to make the process of editing, adding questionnaires, posting news items, as easy as booking a flight on the internet or taking care of personal banking or any of that sort of thing. The process has become as easy as checking your email, and we hope to keep it that way. It needed to be flexible because different organizations have different requests. EPAN is interested in the use of video, but also the use of questionnaires, doctoral network documents, the posting of documents electronically online, the adding of video for this conference. Basically, there are dozens of different ideas that we want to see implemented, and we've implemented a good deal of these. So the new website is now available, actually, and its features at the moment are that you can create project, school, organizational. You have the ability to create any web page in the same manner you check your email. You simply fill out a form, press submit, and the web page is created. You can take photos if you have any appropriate ones, and the machine will look for them on your desktop, where you tell what it is. It will resize them to fit the web page and reduce them in size to something manageable. It also has the ability to read documents from your desktop and convert them to web pages. So if you prefer to create a web page in Microsoft Word, you can instruct the computer, please read the document, convert it to something that works on the web, and put it up on my web page in this location, and it will do so. E-document libraries are in the final stages of testing now, should become available in the next month or so. The main problem at the moment is that they're requiring more content, but I wanted to take the traditional library system, as we're all familiar with the electronic search instruments in our research library, so it mimics that in its operation. The main difference is that you can add documents as need be, and they're indexed and searchable. And of course, we have the ability to create surveys, discussion groups, or any real database-related function. Any request is perfectly reasonable, and I've implemented about a half dozen so far. As for the completion date, it's ready now. I'd encourage you to all visit the website and try it out. You'll see the video for the site is available now, actually. It's been, as opposed to last year, where a few weeks of post-production were necessary. The archived plenary sessions are available about 5 minutes after the finished paper. And to quickly demonstrate, this out here. This is the current website. The underlying structure, you'll notice on the side that news is made available fairly quickly, and news has been made available. Usually it's a matter of 1 to 2 moments. You can see one of the end results at the moment is the web broadcast. That it all looks fairly simple, fairly straightforward, and it's an entity. The interesting part is a little box down on the bottom left-hand side called Contact Management. Anyone can register for access. And when you enter your username and password, you're given a variety of options. Personal profile, personal web page, everyone has one to use or not. They can add new buttons. At the moment, conference organizational button is there. And there are other functions as well, such as conference registration, management of the web broadcast, and searching the membership list. The membership list is available on the website as well. Some of these tools will be available to some users, and some will not. If you wanted to manage a conference registration electronically, you simply request it and it will become available to you. It's a fairly simple process. You can see in this case, each person has a personal profile to edit. I simply click and I change my name to there. The idea is basically, it's just that simple. It's a matter of filling out a form, telling the computer you'd like a new page. The mechanics of it are completely hidden. It's taken the development time to actually get it this far. We're coming up just a little under 1,000 hours. And I'm happy to say at this point that it's largely finished. That it's EPAN is the main model for it now. It's available to any networks or any organization or university that wants it. The idea behind it is going to create a very inexpensive, technician-free alternative that allows us to update these web pages over a cup of coffee in the morning without any real effort. So hopefully it will get some more use in the months to come. We'll see some success from it. But if there are any suggestions on alterations, if you'd like to add questionnaires, databases, there are no real limits. The structure has been set up to allow you to make these adjustments, to pursue your projects, to create doctoral network pages, subcategories, without any real knowledge of web design or any technical expertise. The idea has been to keep it as simple as possible, so it's not to be a distraction from our main sources, our main occupational research. So hopefully you'll find it useful, and there'll be a survey available on it when I return to Limerick as well. So if you'd like to fill out a survey and make comments as to things you find convenient and things you don't find convenient, I'll be making periodic adjustments to make sure that it's intuitive and fairly easy to use.
He's a work group in itself, isn't it? But actually, listening to this, I was thinking today, that's why I mix the things. You think it's easy for everyone, but if for some of people even how intuitive this is, it's frightening. But you might have, perhaps we should have, you just finished it, but I think what we should give the consideration is that perhaps next year, on the Complutense organize a separate working group on how to use the web for
actually incidentally
for a session like this that's decided here now, but that we're going to do that, and that you're going to take some people through it, particularly with that have responsibilities on what are all the opportunities which are available. I understood quite well that you said I'm trying to make myself redundant. So was I
there is one more thing.
Agree to that principle?
In the working group session today, when I found a note that the implementation of the of e-learning was not, it wasn't one of the main topics of discussion, and I immediately thought of this structure, which is designed for that purpose. The idea being is that we don't want to spend a lot of time on the technical details. We want it to be no more complex than looking like checking a mail. So when the time comes to implement the curriculum for these projects, the structure is ready, easily adaptable, and the turnaround time to basically, this is set up in such a way that to create a site for a module would be a matter of simply determining how you want the structure to be laid out, and to implement it would take 2 to 3 days before it's ready. It's designed to, in part it was designed to reduce the amount of hours I've spent creating these sites from hours to minutes. And I've actually implemented it this weekend, and that I've reduced the time for posting the video from several weeks to several minutes. So it's proven successful for my own use so far. I'm hoping that everyone else finds it useful as well.
There's no doubt about it. I think we should now give it some attention, particularly that, and next year will be a good moment to do that, in linking that up to joint modules. But also I think the new questions will be there. For example, it's of course fun to do that now if we put it on the web. but all kind of editorial questions will arise. What kind of things can we publish on the web, and what kind of policy do we follow there? If everybody has its individual website, I guess we need to develop some kind of a policy there. If streaming video is very nice, but only effective for use if they're going to be used and edited and short and intensive. And so that on subsequent question, there's no criticism whatsoever, but the fact I'm very happy that you've gone into this stage, because then this means that next year around, and in the course of this year we will prepare that, but we will be able to organize a more full-fledged workshop, I think, which will address these questions.
You'll also notice at the moment that editorial control, you have the ability to add items and compare items. So certain items you can add and will appear immediately. Other items, say the main news items or certain main sections of the pages, are subject to publishing control by Theo and Mete, and they would approve or disapprove items as they become available.
That would probably mean that we have to set up an editorial board, for example, in terms of structure and that kind of thing. Just to indicate you, this is all a matter of building the situation and to give you an overview of how much it is in progress and what's going on behind the scenes. Thank you very much, Brian.
We were 20 in this working group. I was quite happy with that because we were facing tough competition from another workshop, the working group in the doctoral program, but also from real competition between two Belgian girls who were playing the finale at Roland Garros. I'm happy that
on the screen, probably.
I'm happy that we have these 20 participants. There are three very interesting presentations, one from Christian from the European Case Clearinghouse and from Theo's Case School, Plenary School of Government. One presentation from Mouritzen, who recently published a book in which he incorporated many cases for teaching. And then we also had a commentary from the head of the Education Support Office from our University of Bergen, who gave kind of a didactical commentary on the use of cases for teaching on the basis of the other two presentations. In a discussion, I think we could say that there was a broad agreement on the attractiveness of the case method as an interactive tool of teaching, and also as a tool of competence building of students. We discussed also a number of limitations of the method. One such limitation that was mentioned is that there is no single ideal method. There's no single ideal case method for teaching. So there are various cases, various types of cases, and there is a various use of cases in a classroom setting. And so there is a lot of adjustment and tuning that needs to be done when you want to construct a case catalog. Another limitation that was mentioned was that the use of cases is not straightforward. It requires certain competencies on the part of both lecturers and students. So lecturers, they need to take a step backward. They shouldn't be too steering in the process of the case discussion, so they should treat students as partners. This is not a straightforward thing, and there might be needs for training people on how to use cases for teaching in a classroom setting. Now, what is the agenda for EPAN on the construction of a case catalog? In the handouts we found in your program, we mentioned a number of roles that could possibly be played by the network to develop this catalog of cases. We didn't discuss all these roles and all the products that are listed. I will mention some of the roles that were discussed and some of the products that were envisaged for the future. One role in EPAN is the provision of European cases. So a lot of the case material that is available, or cases for teaching that are available, are from US practice of public administration and policy, and they're not always transferable for teaching in a European setting. So we believe that in the network, through the participants, there is a great potential material for cases. A second role in the network, and a very important one related to one of the limitations of the method I just mentioned, is that dissemination of the method of using cases in teaching. And here the network can play an important role, especially with the tool of the summer school. So last year in Bergen we had a session with young researchers and teachers on the use of cases. We will do the same thing this year in the summer school in Bratislava, and in the summer school in Bergen in 2004 we will devote even more attention to writing cases, but also to using cases. So that will be a complete product in the future to come out of this. There are other roles the network can play, but I think, well, we didn't discuss all those roles in the working group just now, but I think we can take up many of these issues by the committed people. I'm not sure if the list that I passed around was mistaken for a list of participants. I hope not, because everybody listed an interest in working to implement this agenda. Let me just mention a number of projects that might be developed within a network. We could develop guidelines for case writing. We could develop guidelines for teaching with cases. EPAN could play a role in the quality assessment of cases. And of course, the most important project, which we did discuss, and I forgot to mention so far, is the construction of a database of cases. Not only of cases, thematically, or categories of different types of cases, but also a catalogue of the uses of cases. And that is some concrete project we can work towards. And I hope that the people who listed their interest and their commitment to this project will work with us on an implementation of the agenda to, as Pedro mentioned, leave the discourse of this case method and turn it into practice in our concrete teaching situations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? Let's see. It's getting a little bit late, and we don't like to run much till the final time of this meeting was 6 o'clock, so may I then ask Professor Bergen first time to come up and inform us a little bit about the strategy of the evaluation committee?
Dear friends, Mouritzen and I will give you a brief run-through of the plans for the evaluation of the functioning of the network for the 3 program years. And the main challenge now is to short and to keep you awake. I will attempt both. Philip Sepsting said that every organization has special competency. There is some data, and I would say that if this network didn't exist, it should be created because it fulfills some functions in our European society which would fail to be fulfilled if it didn't exist. So it should be created if it didn't exist. That's the master evaluation we set out with. It's important work we're doing here. So why evaluating?
Well, as social scientists, we know there are lots of reasons for evaluation, and we are pretty blunt about these things. But enhancing attention to goals and performances is also always good in every organization, and judging performances and so on is good. But I think that learning is maybe the most important feature of evaluation, detecting successes and recognizing shortcomings. For the formal side of it, justifying the existence of the network and the organization for the benefit of the money providers and the higher authorities, and of course recommending what we should do in the future. Finally, and the point of social science, honoring the myth of rationality. Evaluation is one of the greatest processes of honoring the myth of rationality. You know what it is. So, we don't plan to write all those things to the Commission. No. This is for internal consumption. Should we evaluate our intentions, goals, processes, achievements, or impact? Let me say that impact is very hard to say anything about, so we maybe should concentrate on processes and achievements. And of course, intention and goals is great in any evaluation, and many organizations go away there and say our intentions were great, so this is great, and they get the money next year. The mandate is wide open, so we can do a lot of different things. We need to focus, and we'll need to see what we. But you made a note of the fact that the Academic Advisory Board is the main body apart from the steering committee. Okay. The evaluators are the following. We don't need to memorize this list. We are very important. We're sitting behind you there, evaluating you all the time. Only 4 of us attended the meeting here today, and 2 of us are present here. Continuously evaluating, of course. And we will take into consideration the general goals of the thematic network, these and others. Others being like cases under that. If I should summarize it for my wife, I would say, what are you doing? We're connecting people, trying to connecting people, developing the field, inspiring, trying to standardize and heighten qualities and Europeanize. That's what we're doing, and we're succeeding. The criteria for evaluation, starting with intentions. Well, we shouldn't remain there. We should go down that list and maybe remain in the middle a great deal of the time. And also point 7, beneficial side effects, because as I shall say later, networks are not like other works. Things happen, good things happen, and mapping backwards is often a good thing to do in such undertakings as these. We shall meet again and start serious work, I promise you, Theo, and produce a report next year. And we keep in mind that networks, like other works, values, membership, and commitment are questionable, and there are leadership changes, challenges. We need imaginators and connectors. I don't know if this is proper English, but it's my version of it. Imaginators are people like Theo, Toonen, who things that are possible and feasible, and there is a bigger world out there, even outside Europe. And connectors are those who work, steadily all the time, connecting and to encouraging. And we also have a great inflow of visitors, of course. We do not do much of this, but we can look at that. But I want to bring your attention to the need of having imaginators and connectors. And when I hear the group presentations here, I hear a lot of both imaginators and connectors. So, this is what we think
and we promise not much, but something. Great promises are good, small gifts are good. So we'll be
Okay, since that's a promise that we'll give you to well, they were autonomous. We don't want to influence the judge in this case, and the separation of power here. That we so we're glad at least that you are willing to inform us about the various developments.
The reason for taking forward a vital soccer match between Odense and the Danes have promised their countrymen to beat the Mountaineers, that is the Norwegians.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll see that. I'll take some. It is important, though. I appreciate it, by the way, that we have some professional scientists doing this kind of evaluation in such a way. But it is important, I think, on the long run, that we pay attention to this, and that we gradually develop it. And as I'm being evaluated as chairman, and the clear deadline is that I have to stop at the end date, at the end time of the conference, which was 6 o'clock, I guess. I have 1 minute left to do something that I normally take much more time for, but which I will do briefly this time. Somebody asked me this morning, did you get drunk last night? And I said, no, I was too tired for it. So essentially, I'm not going to say that much anymore in the closing session. But of course, it is inevitable, and with great pleasure, and I have got a lot of energy to thank a few people in the end of this conference who have been doing the real work. You know about my story, about what is it, the network blues that I get throughout March. This time we've managed to avoid it, actually. I wasn't even worried about it, but I think right from the conference, I think it is a huge compliment for the way Mette has been running this network over the past year with me in the position of a dean that has all kind of other things to do. I mean, I was able to pay some attention every now and then, and she has a good relationship with my current secretary to do some infighting on my agenda, but the way we have to communicate every now and then, running around the corridors, or other occasions, or sitting in cars even, you won't. But the fact that I did not get the network blues, and the fact that we have been able to achieve all the things with all the promises and non-promises, but I think the things that are on the agenda is better. So would you please stand up, Mette, and accept an applause from everybody. I know she hated. I stole her ashtray somewhere as a gift in the course of this year, so that was my gift, my personal gift. And it is somewhere in the office. One design that she liked particularly was, I think, was a Swedish design, or a Danish design or something it was, so I helped her out there. So I do my things in return, but I think me personally, but everybody should be very grateful for the enormous amount of professional effort she's putting into it. But then, of course, there's a lot of people that help. I don't know who has been controlling the weather. He did this well of a job for us, I think, with this kind of conference. But that person we can thank with not influence, but there are some people that have been influenced and have been doing a great job preparing this conference. Some people said in absolutely the most beautiful location that we've had so far. So only the fact that we managed to get into this location was an achievement in itself. And I think responsible for that to a large degree has been Marlene. I know, but in order to get access, to get the organization, I know also that you have a whole set of slaves behind it. I've seen them every now and then, the boys, and they're not being mentioned somewhere, but they pop up every now and then, and they do a lot of the the invisible work behind it, but you with that group. Thank you very much, and we would like to express our thanks and appreciation. A small gift, some flowers. And I'll promise I'll buy the stage of beer afterwards because we're going to have to do that. Small gift from ladies. And then of course the most important person is always mentioned last, as you know, the Queen we keep until the end, Crystal. You're very well known that of course all the work and organization in the end comes down to you. Could you please come up here and accept the thanks of this group for a tremendous job, tremendously good done, and for you the same thing, flower and the present. I felt miserably 5 minutes with my job as a chairman, so thank you very much for being here. You will hear more of us and we'll be in touch.